All right, well, welcome everybody to Fifth Street Sports. It's great to be with you here.
First show
live from Fifth Street. I'm Nick Eber. We have Frank Perez, Nolan
Dalla from Las Vegas.
Well, we are live from Las Vegas. Lots to get to today. By the way, we certainly hope you enjoy this show. We will be with you every week at from Saturdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. So we certainly hope that you will tune in and make us a regular part of your weekend. Lots to get to, guys. We've got a lot of topics on the table today. Of course, college basketball, it's in full swing as we speak. Games getting ready to tip off, or if not, well, next hour I think they'll be tipping.
I'm already stuck. Frank, you're going to help me out, right? You're going to unstuck me?
Oh, I'll try.
All right.
You know.
All right, so we're going to do, we'll talk about college basketball. Lots of news, of course, in the world of gaming, gambling, betting, sports, lots of stuff.
How'd you
going
like to
on.
be Stu Wynn right now?
Well, it depends if I'm getting a massage or not.
Or if you're getting the $2 billion he just cashed out with, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
That'll pay for a lot of massages.
And if you ever go to the casino, I hope to get bad beat jackpot while you're playing some poker, you know, you better look at the fine print. We're going to talk about that as well. Frank, I know you used to play a lot of poker in this town.
Oh yeah, back in the '80s, you know. But there was always limit. It was always limit. It was whole different. It was like the Babe Ruth era of baseball. For
Are you
poker.
that old? You don't look that old.
No, but no, but
Babe, well, no, he doesn't. He looks pretty good, I think.
nah.
For a guy that's 87 years old.
Well, the camera puts on 10 pounds also.
It
so.
does. But
Oh,
no,
is that all? By the way, if you're listening to us on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, it is absolutely terrific to be with you, as well as we would like to welcome in all the men and women in uniform
We
serving
salute you.
Yes.
around the world listening to us on American Forces
Absolutely.
Network.
Do they gamble? Do you think they gamble overseas when they're in these
Oh, yeah.
sometimes dangerous areas?
Oh, yeah, I could think there's nothing that will create more conflict amongst people than a game. No, I mean, I served in the I served in the Army for
You
nearly
were a
4 years.
Ranger, yes.
I was actually a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Wow.
And there was a lot of gambling, poker.
With that accent, they let you in the Army.
Well, they did. But I had real trouble understanding. I just come off the boat, so to speak. It was very difficult. Hey, listen, we do have to go to break, so we're going to do that. We're going to come back with more live from Fifth Street Sports on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, and of course, live on Twitch. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. This is Fifth Street Sports on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, as well, of course, as Twitch and YouTube. And hey, maybe we can put down below all the various places that we appear. If you're
All
watching
over the
us.
world.
Yeah, all over the world. American Forces, Twitch. We could maybe find that one and put that up there. But anyway, it is great to be with you, Nick Geber, Nolan Dalla, Frank Perez. The call it went up very briefly and then it disappeared. By the way. So, but maybe we can put it up for longer this time. You can see where we're going. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the news that's going on around town, guys, because the big news is that Steve Wynn has divested himself from Wynn Casinos.
Yeah, Steve Wynn has done so much for this town. Frank, you've been here for, what, 50-something years?
54
What has
years
Steve
now.
Wynn meant to Las Vegas before we get into it?
Steve, I've been here since my father brought us here in '64, so I was only 4 years old. 54 years, and Steve Wynn is basically almost like the founder of the Las Vegas Strip. I mean, he took it to a whole new level. Started with the Golden Nugget downtown, and it's just a shame that a guy with that much talent and that much creativity could actually fall from
So is it
grace.
tragedy or justice what's happened to him?
I can't tell. All I know is that just don't throw this guy under the bus so much, because he took the Strip to a new level, you know.
You almost have to compartmentalize people, don't you? The personalities, what they do in their private life. And, I mean, let's acknowledge that the man has built this town and one of the pioneers, the pillars of this community, yes?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, it depends. He's also, been responsible for giving a lot of attractive young ladies work in various positions within his organization, many of them horizontal.
By the way, the last
got
one,
a
and it's
bing.
funny, there were quite a few, I think, yes?
Listen, hashtag me too. I don't know what to say, but, in terms of everyone we're talking about here are adults. A lot of these people knew what they were getting into. And so apparently Steve Wynn was using his position as a multi-billionaire owner of probably the most successful property here in Las Vegas, and found it easy to get, shall we say, happy ending massages. I mean, what is the surprise there, guys? Is there a huge surprise there?
No, it's how long's this been going on? It's always a stigma from Hollywood, how to get to the top and this and that. Just astonishing to me that all these guys and all these women are coming out at this time,
Yeah. Well, it's
Second,
been
I need
about
to
a
get
year
the,
now, right?
Yeah.
I need to get the echo.
Yeah.
You guys, we're hearing an echo here? A
Slightly.
little bit, yeah. I got an echo here, so...
I just thought that was me from, drinking last
well,
night.
it might be.
Yeah.
It
I was
might
hearing voices, and
Yeah.
I thought, maybe it's time to convert. Not to your tribe.
No, you wouldn't
They wouldn't let me in. Yeah.
Right. All right. So yeah. So I mean, it's the rub and tug, right? Ultimately, that's what got Steve Wynn into trouble.
Well, it's we could do a whole show, of course, on the Me Too movement, which we won't. I am curious about one thing about the. I would like to ask one thing though about when you come to Las Vegas. Let's say this, Frank. You come to Las Vegas here in, let's say, 2 years. Are you going to see Wynn's name at the top of the building since he's no longer?
And what about the new casino they're developing, the new property
In Boston, or
no? They're right behind here in Las Vegas. All that land behind the Wynn, they're building a new golf course or a new tower. It's a Wynn 3. It's Encore Plus.
I didn't know that.
It's
There's a
called the
Wynn
Rub
thing?
Down.
Oh
No,
ouch.
they are really building one.
They really
Seriously,
are?
yes. It's a big development going on, and that is an interesting point. I mean, what about the branding for Wynn?
Yeah, it's not really a toxic brand though. It's
Yeah.
like when you walk into the Wynn, you still expect to see first class establishment, right?
Always, yeah. I think anything shouldn't. Gosh, it's tough to tell just where this is going to go to. But usually, anything that says Wynn was usually first class. You got great treatment. I don't know.
One thing that I think is really bad about this, and this, we haven't touched on, is that this is a very corporate town. It used to be built by individuals, right? The
With
casino
Italian
culture
last
was,
names and
yes,
the bad temper.
yes, and my
let's
last
be
name
honest,
ends in a
right?
vowel, so I can say this, right? So, but now it's impersonal. It's corporations. There's boards that are making the decisions that affect really this entire city and this entire industry. And I'm not sure that's a good thing. I think the tragedy of Steve Wynn is that we lose not just one of the pioneers of the industry, but we also lose a person and a live individual that you could approach on the street that you would see in restaurants.
Yeah, and
Are we losing him though? I mean, let's be honest. There's he'll be back. He's got billions of dollars. This is his lifeblood.
Oh,
This
I'm
is
not
what he
crying,
does.
yeah.
You know, I'm not crying for Steve. Trust me. He's had a good time. He's had lots of rub and tugs. Life could be worse. I mean, really, honestly, guys. I mean, could life be worse than Steve Wynn?
Nick seems to be hooked on this rub and tug thing.
He is.
But I think like when you get older, like as a billionaire, somebody like that's done everything like him. Boy, this fall from losing your name and your reputation and grace, that's got to be just
That's it right there.
that's got because the only thing you got is what's between your ears. I mean, you're sitting there on the park bench thinking what you did, and like the last 40 or 50 years doesn't count. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't count just because a few girls come in and say that you grabbed their butt. You know what I mean, or something like this. All of a sudden, all that goes away. 50 years means nothing.
Well, guys, I wouldn't worry. My understanding, what I had heard, is that he's actually going back into law, which was his background. I don't know if you knew that, Steve Wynn.
Law?
He's opening Wynn, Weinstein, and Polanski. It's a new firm.
Ooh, wow.
Oh,
Ooh.
bada
Wow.
bing! Look at
My
this.
Going to specialize in
And Woody Allen's going to do their live story.
No, he's their first client. I'm pretty sure. So we're gonna get to that one.
Is this the way the whole show's going to roll?
I don't know. Probably. By the way, you are grabbing close to your heart there. No, not your belly. That is a football, and you're grabbing it like a sort of baby. I mean, is this some sort of thing we should
Watch
be
out,
worried
Frank.
about? That
Good
is-
catch.
By the
All
way,
right.
that
Sign him up. Cleveland
who
Browns. There
who
you
that is?
go.
That's a Rodney Pete football.
Rodney
It really
Peete.
does have
That
a
is a
signature.
Rodney Pete football.
So with this football and $1.95 right now, could you get a cup of coffee
I
at
think.
Starbucks?
Well, it depends. If it's Starbucks, no.
Let me have my ball back. Let me have my baby
Rodney
back.
Peete.
This is my baby back.
And of course, as
Yeah,
a Bruin,
ribs. See, baby back ribs.
as a Bruin, that doesn't sit well with me, right?
As a Bruin?
Yeah, I'm a
Oh,
Bruin.
UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA, Rodney Pete, USC, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
almost. You touch that, you sort of break out in a rash.
Well, it's now. It's not football season now. We have a lot of things to talk about regarding all the other sports that are
Yeah,
going
right.
on. Right? I mean, it's just
College
so much.
basketball.
Right.
We got hockey. Of course, got my great love. We got my football. We got the Champions
boy.
League. We got the Barclays Premier League. We got promotion. We got relegation.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I know. You can't. By the way, I actually saw on betanysports.eu that currently Manchester City were minus 200,005 to win the Premier League. That's how much of a favorite.
Now, what does that mean for
Well,
people?
I think that means you ask you. I mean, you guys are experts. What's that mean? You got to bet $205,005 to win 100.
Is that right?
That seems ridiculous. Are they? That's almost like if it was even if they were already won it. Just the
Well,
fact
they
that.
have basically already won it. I mean, that's the point.
Oh, okay.
They would have to lose 8 games in a row or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
Or
and let me tell you, that's just not going to happen.
No.
I'm going to pull it
by
up.
the way, Manchester City is the evil empire to you. Yes,
No,
isn't
Manchester United. Are the
that Manchester United? Excuse me.
So here we go. Manchester City. If we can put this up on the screen, actually, you can see this. There you go. Manchester City to win the English Premier League minus 200,005. How about that, guys?
This. At this bet any sports you can get odds and bets on anything.
I've never seen anything that high. Have you?
No.
It's kind of like I'm trying to think of an analogy to this. It'd be
No.
And it's plus 50,000. I believe that's plus 50,000 for anyone in the field to win the Premier League. I mean, I know we got college basketball going on. We're sitting here talking about the Barclays Premier League, or not the Barclays Premier League anymore, the Premier League, which is currently on international break this weekend anyway. But I thought those odds were terrific. I mean, you willing to bet against the field here? Bet for the field? Bet against City?
well, I think that's the gambling tactical question. Wasn't there somebody in the college basketball, where Nevada was playing Cincinnati Bearcats? And they were up by 22. There was live in-game betting. Similar situation. Somebody laid $20,000. I'm not making this up. They laid $20,000 to win $26 when
Right.
the favorite was up by 22. Of course, Nevada comes back and upsets them. And
Yeah, there was
somebody
like-
loses
Well, that
20
wasn't
grand.
you, was it, Nolan?
If I had 20 grand.
I think there was six or 7 minutes left in the game. I think that might have happened was it at South Point or one of those?
Yeah, but I mean, actually, this did happen. I mean, there are situations where the crazy thing happens. Yeah,
Yeah, you think you're stealing $26, right?
right.
Have a nice
Expensive dinner.
Day. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to have to step aside and take a break here in just a few seconds. When we come back in the next segment, we're going to be joined by Fifth Street resident Brian Allen, who's currently not here on Fifth Street, but we will bring him in through the miracle of technology. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, Twitch, and everywhere else.
You ready, Brian?
Am I?
Okay, well, welcome back to the show.
Nice to be back.
Yeah, Fifth Street
Good to be
Sports.
back.
Nick Eber, Frank Perez, Nolan Dalla. Guys, it's funny. One of the biggest betting weekends, period, in Las Vegas. Of course, college basketball is going on right now. And we find ourselves in a position about talking about the Barclays Premier League. So let's switch tack, shall we? And let's talk a little bit college basketball. Let's
stay on this side of the ocean.
Yeah, let's do that. Shall we bring in Brian Allen, who is hiding somewhere, I believe, in...
Can't wait.
Well, he's not here with us on Fifth Street. Hey,
There
Brian.
he is.
Hey, guys.
All right, we've got to get some audio on Brian, and then we'll be happy. All right,
Can you hear me?
Brian? Yes.
How is that?
Yeah, we got you.
All right.
We finally have you, right? So some big games today, Brian. Take us through what's going on today and how you see it.
Well, two big games today. First game, Kansas State Loyola. This is a tough one. I think the side is basically coin toss. I haven't seen a side line up with a lot of the sharp groups. My father did call me last night, told me he liked Loyola. So in my mind, I think Kansas State's probably my selection at this time, but I'm passing on the side and I'm playing the under. I think the under is where the value is. One of the things we look for around the entire calendar, but especially this time of year, we get a huge amount of public, guys that don't bet throughout the year that decide they want to come in and bet during the tournament. So there is the potential to create value on certain situations when the public lines up on one side. And in this particular game, we've got a pretty interesting phenomenon where we have the public betting the over, yet the line is actually moving lower. It's opened at 127. It's now around 126, 126 and a half. We call that phenomenon a reverse line movement. And it just so happens that just about every sharp group that I can see happens to be betting the under as well. So if I was going to play something in the first game, I'd bet the under. And in the second game, Michigan State, Florida State, kind of a similar phenomenon. Public is on Michigan. The line's dropped from 4.5 to 3.5. So there was value at one point on Florida State.
So you'd bet
but
the under
it's
on
gone now. That's right. Under on the first game. And I think in the second game, I think there was value on Florida State, but the line is now 3.5. I personally like Michigan at 3.5. But, it's tough to find a lot of value sometimes on these games because the market is so efficient. There's so many people that have bet these games. Unless you get a scenario where the public is clearly on one side and you have the chance to oppose the public, you're not going to find value on every single game. But for me, it would be under in the Loyola game, and I'm actually with the public in the second game. I like Michigan. You guys hear me?
So you like Michigan in the second game, and you say you're not seeing a lot of value. I mean, is that because when you get down, to this few teams anyway? I mean, unless there's a huge underdog that's made it in, there just isn't much value there.
Well, yeah, you really like to see.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys fine. Can you hear me?
Right, so we're having some technical issues. Tell you what, why don't we? Do we have you, Brian?
I can hear you guys.
We're missing Brian, but that's that.
How's
okay.
that?
All right. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Like I said, you like to see the public on one side and the Sharps on
funnily
the
enough,
other.
we've been talking to Brian for about 3 hours before the show.
I know, it's so funny. It's so perfect. Listen, man,
Yeah.
I have a question. This is a serious thing, and of course, I'm the guy who gets his ass kicked in this town by betting and sometimes being very emotional. Are you still with me, Brian? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
So here's what happened to me last night. There was the Duke-Syracuse game. The total started at 138. Frank, can you hear this? 138.
138.
It's bet all the way down to 131. Now, there's a 7-point line move on that total last night. Key national game. Everybody's watching it. Is that when you should theoretically bet the other way? It goes so far that you should say, I'm going to go over 131.
Yes, I think there comes a breaking point when the equity is now in. That's just too big of a line, unless it's due to an injury or weather.
Sure.
You know what I mean? If it's injury or weather related, then
Sure.
it should be going down. But yeah, I mean, what did that game fall on last night?
It fell at 130. Don't quote me, 136. It came right in the middle. So that was a really sweet spot, I believe, right there in the middle.
I forgot the final. It was Duke by 4, right?
Correct.
Was it 69, 65?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, so actually, yeah, you would have middled it had you started early.
So the person that sees the line
Yeah.
movement and does exactly what the stuff Brian's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. See, he at 126.5. That's the only value in that game that he's talking about under is here's two teams that pass the ball a lot. They really milk that shot clock, and there's a lot of pressure now to get to the Final Four. The under I think it's a correct play in that game. Mm-hmm. I really do.
Is Brian still with us?
I believe Brian's
I'm
still
here.
with us. You still there, Brian?
yeah. You guys hear me?
Okay.
So Brian, let me ask you. So how many points do you need to middle a college basketball game? Let's suppose we have a situation, and some of the games are moving already. You talked about the line 127. If it was down to 124, would you take both sides of that with a 2-point middle, 3-point middle?
So you're saying going under 127, over 125? Or to make the example easier to comprehend, let's call it 127 and a half, 125 and a
I
half.
think Brian is on a.
No,
some
but-
reason Brian's delay is going.
Well,
up
there is
to
a time difference
he's
between
going-
here and
he's-
Oklahoma.
He's going up to the Tesla that's circling the galaxy and headed.
We're
to
in the
Mars.
West Coast. He's in the Central.
Yeah.
There's a 2-hour time difference. He should be ahead of us.
Well, he's actually going up to the Tesla and he's going to drive it back to Earth, and then he'll come here to Fifth Street and tell us what's going on. Maybe we have a.
time for a new battery.
Yeah, I think so. But
You know that question you asked about when is it like probable to middle a college back?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, that game's in the 120s, so it's a lot different than when a
That's
game's
a
in the
lowest total,
140s or
anyway, isn't
150s.
it?
Yeah. So let's say, for instance, the game was 126.5, and you could go over 124, and you had not like at Bet Any Sports. See, at Bet Any Sports, you could lay $1.05, $1.04. It's really reduced juice. But let's say in a lot of typical bookmakers or the strip, it's $1.10. So if you bet over 124, under 126.5, you're getting 20 to 1 on the 125 and on the 126, and 10 to
20 to 1 because it's 105.
No, that's 110 because you bet 100. If it lands on 25 or 26, you win both, and you're getting 10 to 1 on the 124. So you would say to yourself, if this game were played 20 times, would it land on 125 or 126, or even as a bonus 124? If it was played, I think yes. I think that's a very equitable play right there. Now it's different though. If a game was 151 or 153,
Right,
and
a
half,
higher score, yeah.
you might need a little tiny bit more over there because there's the game's going to be more wide open.
Yeah, in the NFL, for example, at 37, it's going to fall around 37. A half point there is much bigger than, say, a line move in the NFL is from 56 to 56 and a half. Almost
Correct,
meaningless,
yeah.
right?
Or
Same
40 to
thing.
41. Those are big.
Right.
Sure. It only makes sense. But yeah, I would do 124 to 126 and a half all day long.
Right. But
Yeah.
it's funny, though, that it was interesting what Brian said. He says, I'm betting with the public on the Michigan pick, which is interesting because a contrarian, the general thing is fade the public, right? You go against the Yankees. You go against the popular sentiment. But here we're seeing somebody say, an expert say.
and tell me, Nolan, has that actually been the secret of your success?
The secret I'm still waiting for the secret of my success. Hell, I got a lot of secrets, but I got very little success. We'll see about that. That's why I'm on this show. When do we get paid around here, by the way?
Well, that's point when you have some success. But I see you have actually cracked open the Jameson. So
This
that's
is
good.
a down payment.
Is there going to be any left by the time the show's over?
The way you're rolling, no. I need another bottle.
All right. So the contrarians are not ruling the day, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah.
No. Yeah, you're right.
But by the way, so there's a few more games tomorrow, and then of course the Final Four, which is coming up. Which I think Brian said he has some advanced lines for theoretical matchups. We'll hear about that as well.
Yeah, but well, he's got all the theoretical matchups, which is very good. I mean, he could probably tell you if who meets who, what the line's going to probably be. You know,
Right.
Barring an injury.
The interesting thing, I don't want to steal his thunder, but I just want to get people to stay on air here because some of the things that Brian was talking about with regard to the stadiums and the rims, he's got something coming up. I'm going to tease everybody out there. He's got something coming up about the rims and the way it's set, like there's a bounce factor or something. Yeah. I can't wait to hear this. It's just, hang on because this could make you money. Right.
And we are going to get our technical problems sorted here in the break, which is in about 1 minute.
We have technical problems?
We do have a few.
Didn't even notice.
Yes, just a few minus, just a few minus. So we're going to keep Brian through the next segment. We were going to talk about the Japanese women's curling team, but we've decided
Japanese
not
baseball.
to. We're going to keep Brian on to talk about college basketball. I'm not sure which one's more important, although I must admit there was something about those Japanese women. They sounded like little anime figures, didn't they? Pushing that big stone around.
It's a phase, Nick. It's called a phase.
Or maybe it was Asian women
It's
with brooms. Was that it for me?
I think
know.
it's just Asian women. I think you're.
That is a definite problem. All right, you're listening to Fifth Street Sports here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, of course. We are also on American Forces. A big hello to our men and women in uniform around the world. We really appreciate it. And, of course, we are live on Twitch. I say, of course, but Twitch is it. I mean, Twitch is the new thing. And
since Facebook's going to be shut down the next couple of days, right?
Apparently so. All right, guys, we're going to be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
Got me on there.
All right. Welcome back to the show. It's good to be with you, Nick Geber, Nolan Dalla, Frank Perez. And I don't do that in any particular order, guys. I mean,
I'm Nolan, he's Frank.
You are Nolan, he is Frank.
And you're who?
I'm Nick.
All right, Nick. Hello, Nick.
Next time you can bring the show in.
What are we going to talk about now, Nick?
Well, we're going to keep on with college basketball. Of course, we still have ourselves back in our headsets, but, I guess that's life. We'll have to deal with it. But let's see if we can bring back Brian Allen, because it is time for it's Hateful Eight, isn't it? Elite Eight.
What did you just say?
The Hateful Eight. Isn't that what it was?
Hateful Eight. Yeah, that's
that movie.
That's the movie, yeah.
You still with us, Brian?
I'm here. How is that? Any better?
I think he's saying he's still with us. All right. Well, once again, we have this interminable.
Well, for some of us, by the way, the Elite Eight is the Hateful Eight. If you're losing, your ass, it does become the Hateful Eight. And Brian, I hope you're there. Can give us some winners. And he's already on the under in the first game.
Right.
And he likes Michigan in the I think it's -3.5.
No. Yeah, Michigan is the underdog, even though it was 5. Oh, Michigan's favorite.
Michigan's the third seed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I really like them.
By the way, the Cinderella teams in that there's a 9 and 11 matchup, and I'm not a basketball historian, but I don't recall seeing two seeds seeded so deeply playing in the Elite Eight. Yeah. A 9 versus an 11. You lost Kentucky in that bracket. You lost all these other 8 favorite teams. Have you ever had Have you ever had 2 teams south of the mean of that
I
bracket?
can't remember. No.
I don't think so.
9 versus 11 has never happened.
There's going to be a remarkable Cinderella in the Final Four. Interesting, right?
Remarkable Cinderella. But really, if you think about it, I mean, short of what, Duke, I mean, let's go down who's perennially in the Final Four here?
Sure. Villanova,
Duke, right?
Michigan.
I mean, from a betting perspective, how interesting is that? I mean, other than the fact that you're going to have...
That's a great question. Let me ask you, Frank. This is a great... Do the high-profile schools like Duke, like Villanova, like Michigan, does that increase the handle on betting on basketball?
I think so, but I think it's always... If you can get a couple of really nice underdogs in there like this Loyola team...
What if Loyola Chicago gets in the final?
Because then it's the old Samson and Goliath thing. They want to see Duke get taken down.
Yeah.
Remember when Butler played Duke in that final? That was huge.
Or for those of us who are a little older, it was Villanova. Speaking of Villanova, when they upset, you remember the Massimino when he upset whoever it was? I forgot, North Carolina State or something.
Yeah, but still, like Villanova is still a big school. But if you can get this other team into the finals that's playing today, this Chicago team, I mean, that everybody would love to see that. Just if one of those little schools can just take down that big monster, then it gets interesting.
It's interesting, though, that, as gamblers, and you're a serious gambler, been in this town 50-something years, you can still fall in love with the romance of certain teams and the underdog story, yes?
No, not really.
No?
I could care less.
Boy, you just... I tried to set him up with a softball.
No,
wait a minute. I tried to set you up, and you just fumbled the snap.
No, not...
Gosh.
Not at all. Like if this Chicago team was playing Villanova, the line should be 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you gave me, Chicago plus 12, then I would love them. I'd wear their jersey. But if you gave me, if you gave me the other team minus 5, I'm wearing a Villanova jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know.
Have you no loyalty, sir?
None, zero.
You're just a gambler and give me the money.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, some truth in that.
The question is, how much loyalty are these teams going to give you in return?
Yeah, who cares?
I agree with that. Yeah,
I mean, the teams give you nothing but heartache and misery. You
follow
a team.
Tell me about it.
It's better to follow them as a gambler than as a fan. I mean, good Lord. I mean,
I hate everybody. They've all cost me money.
That's right. Exactly right. It's interesting because there is just to take a little segue here. I mean, we're about to have a massive Supreme Court decision.
Oh yeah.
Here, sort of any day here in this country, where the New Jersey lawsuit will be upheld,
and all the gamblers are on the same side here.
They are, except for the mayor of Las Vegas, of course, who doesn't want this to change ever. But because of the monopoly in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because I think, Nolan, you wrote a great blog on your website about
at nolandalla.com. Nolandalla.com. Plug there.
Very good, Nolan.
Thank you.
Very
snuck that in there.
Good professionalism like that. But you wrote a blog about how even a meaningless game could just become so meaningful to you when you've got even the smallest amount of money riding.
Oh, I think that's such a great point, and you've been around longer than I have for sure, and you completely understand that if the Patriots are playing the Steelers, but you got action on the Browns playing the Bengals, what game are you watching? Yeah.
Browns, but let me ask something. If seriously, between in NFL betting, it's a Thursday night and the Browns are playing the let's say the Browns are playing the 49ers on Thursday night, and there was no action, no fantasy leagues, no spread. It was illegal to do any of that. Who's watching that? Think about it. Who's going to watch that?
But the ratings don't drop. They still get 20, 30
well,
million
because
people.
there's gambling on it, and because there's fantasy football. Like when my friends say whoever thinks baseball is boring just didn't bet enough. How about
Wait a minute. Hold that. Say that thought again. If you
whoever
think it's
thinks that
boring, you didn't
baseball
bet
is-
enough.
is-
I
is
like
a
that
bore-
line.
Well, even like Nick, I
very
was
good.
talking to Nick because Nick is he's a great soccer analyst and expert. And all the people, when you walk into the restaurants and you see the soccer on TV and there's no sound, you see these guys just kicking the ball back and forth. You go, how boring is that? Really? Well, let me tell you something. I had a huge bet on a soccer game. I had under 2.5. And the score was 1-1 in the 74th minute.
Oh, wow.
And they were doing a corner kick.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't that boring.
Yeah.
It wasn't that boring at all. You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean?
you want that 1-to-1 tie.
Well, yeah, but you think it's still boring? Why don't you put like 20,000 on under 2.5, and the score is 1-1 in minute 72, and they're doing a penalty kick or something? Tell me how boring that soccer is.
I think you just nailed something. When you are on the edge of your seat and you have, whatever amount of money you have in your pocket on a game, that it is absolutely riveting. Whether it's tennis, whether it's ping pong, whether it's darts, whether it's soccer,
I heard a quote one time from Artie Lang. He says, all these people that think that New Year's Eve and all this stuff is so much fun, everything. He says, I'll give you a hell of a much better time than New Year's Eve. Bet double your net worth on an NFL game, get a 12-pack, and that'll beat the crap out of any New Year's celebration.
especially if you win.
That's right.
Like win or
That
lose.
helps.
That's always
I've
the
been on the other
caveat.
side of that. You want to get juice. You
Yeah,
want to feel electricity. Bet money you don't have.
No, but seriously, like let's say there's a big New Year's celebration, you're all into it. Okay, great, your friends are partying, or you have $500 in your pocket and you call your bookmaker and you bet 1,000 on the game.
No
and you bust
bookmakers
open a
here.
12-pack.
We don't allow bookmakers. Remember, it's a live show.
Or you bet it on credit. So you're worth 500 and you bet 1,000 on an NFL game, and then and you got yourself a bottle of vodka or a 12-pack. You're gonna have a hell of a time compared to popping little corks at New Year's or watching fireworks. Believe me. Especially when you see a guy fumble.
As Nolan so rightly pointed out, especially if you win.
I've noticed
the
that
key,
winning
right?
is better than losing. That's for sure. And by the way, it's funny that if you're around this and people that are watching us or listening to us now all over the world, you go through stages, and hopefully the one thing we'll have some fun here. But hopefully, I think you'll learn some things too. There's a lot of interesting things out there that, boy, I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. I wish I would have known this 2 years ago. I wish I had known this 2 days ago. Because information is the key. Yes.
Yeah, information's big, but it's always line. Well, which I guess line value is tied to information. Sure, it is. And to find out who the people that are getting the best information, because it's hard for you to singly get the best information. But if you know the people that are getting it, that's just as good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, you and I were talking earlier, and you were talking about really inside information. Is there such a thing?
Yes. You mentioned
What's an example?
the Detroit Red Wings story that you told me about the equipment. That was a
All right, here's the
fabulous-
30-second story on that, what he's talking about. Can I tell that,
Yeah,
Nick?
that was a
Are we allowed
fabulous
to just go
Absolutely.
off topic here
Yeah,
a little
sure,
bit?
of course.
All right, real quick. So I get this text message from somebody a few years ago. The Detroit Wings are playing at Calgary, hockey game in the middle of February, whatever. Somebody said the truck, whatever, had an accident that's carrying all the equipment, all the gloves, all the sticks, all the skates. Can you imagine skating on rental skates or whatever they're, basically the other team or some minor league hockey team provided the equipment for the Detroit Red Wings that night, who go off as a minus 135 favorite. Zing! They lose 6-1 at Calgary. And I'm like,
Right.
Who knew that? ESPN. I'm watching SportsCenter that evening. They don't say anything about the truck. They don't say anything about the equipment being. So you're right. Occasionally you get the inside information, but sometimes inside information is not always accurate. Yes.
Yeah, but that's real inside information. The other ones, when they're telling you about, oh, the game's fixed or they're losing, or that's nowadays that's just all garbage. Like Brian, like on our next segment, when Brian comes in, he's going to tell you about rim variance in basketball.
What rim?
Now,
Rim what?
rim variance.
rim variance.
Rim variance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey, you know, guys. While we're here, why don't we let Brian Allen go? We'll bring him back in the next hour. We can sort out our technical
wait.
problems. Otherwise, I think
We need a winner, Brian.
Yeah, he's going to have to. We will bring Brian back. Well, by the miracles of technology, we'll bring him back. But
I'm going to start praying.
you mentioned that the thing about it is people say, "Oh, the game's fake and it's fixed." And honestly, you're right. I mean, it's such a rare thing, unless, of course, you're talking about Italian football.
Oh, well, yeah.
Ooh. He's disparaging the Italians now.
Juventus. I mean, the oldie. They're right. Exactly. Everybody knows. I mean,
Yeah,
you can
no,
never. You
that's-
can't.
that is
Seriously,
true. That is
it's a
true.
problem.
No,
I mean,
sure.
once the integrity of the game is in question, all sorts of issues come up.
And one of the fellows who was involved in that he's now the president of Italy again, yes?
He is indeed. Yeah,
Yes.
Mr.
Well,
Berlusconi.
we can say his name, can we? Or we're
Well,
not to?
talk about a
I
guy
don't
that
wanna
likes,
get sued.
likes a little rub and tug every now and then.
I don't want to wake up with a horse's head in my
Well,
back.
wasn't that Bunga Bunga party with Gaddafi? That was Mr.
Was that
Berlusconi.
you there?
Yeah, no, it was me. I'm sorry. Old Muammar and I we were buddies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So sorry. It's tough, but Mr. Berlusconi. But the integrity of the game is very important, of course. And as we talk about gambling, sports betting becoming legal,
Yes.
it's interesting that the big sports leagues all now want their piece. They want their 1%, their 0.5%. I mean, how much juice they're going to put on top of this?
And the people who should want the integrity the most to be monitored, to have this legitimate, easy for me to say, legitimized, are the gamblers. We always accused sports gamblers get accused to try to fix games. No, I want games played on the square. I don't want one of those McDonough, whatever the referee with the NBA referee.
Right.
I don't want that because that'll completely screw with the situation.
it messes everything up.
But
right?
but
Yeah,
still,
it's really hard
but
to
just
pick
think about it. Just think about it. How many times we've been in this town? I've been in a lot of sports books. How many times have you ever gone in there and you see the horse players say, especially the trotters, "Oh, horse racing's fixed. The trainer that they're all in on, they're all fixed." And I said, "Well, where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to go up and make a bet." I mean, they all know it and they all say it that it's fixed, and the trotters and the whole thing, even telling them and declaring it, and they kind of know it's true.
Do you think that
they still can't wait to
horse
get to the
racing
window?
is horse race? It's a generic
No,
statement. Is horse
I'm
racing
sure
fixed?
there's been situations because now you're talking about one owner and one horse, so it's a lot easier to just tell your buddy, "Hey, my horse doesn't feel good," or "I'm just going to work him out today." Sometimes, but you can't tell me that you can ever fix an NFL game. Or you can ever fix a game like that. Because what if I told you right now, okay, listen, go bet everything you got. The middle linebacker for the Steelers tomorrow isn't feeling good. I just talked to his wife. How much more are you going to bet? Does that really going to matter? After his third missed tackle, they're going to yank him. Or if a wide receiver is going to miss a game, do you know with these cameras right now that can see a gnat on the moon, if this guy's trying to drop a football.
We're going to have to come back to that because we do have to go to break. Got to pay some bills
A
here.
gnat on the moon. We're going to pick it up from a gnat on the moon.
I mean,
all right,
they're going
pick
to
it up
see
from
this
there.
guy dropping a football.
All right, you're watching and listening to Fifth Street Sports here on the
the
Sports
truth.
Byline USA Radio Network, and of course, we're streaming live.
This
on
is
Twitch and
unrehearsed.
YouTube. We'll be right back after this. Test. You have level? You have levels? I have no feedback. Test 1, 2, 3. Nothing. We're good. Guys, we're on in 20 seconds. All right, we're back on the show. Welcome back. My co-hosts have decided that here they come. Better late than never, right?
It's a live show.
Yeah, it is a live show,
live
and
show.
it's good to have you guys back. I was getting a little worried there, so you found your way around all right. Okay, folks. I hope you are going to stay with us for the next hour. We are, as I said, we're just ironing things out. It's our first show here. We're broadcasting.
It's our first show, and by the way, Nick, congratulations on you and the crew here on doing a marvelous job. I walked in here a few days ago. This is being painted up, and I mean it's remarkable, and it's what you're doing here. And by the way, the idea of this show is to learn something and have some fun.
That's
Isn't that
right.
basically it?
That's exactly right.
Right.
Have some fun, just like everyone sits around and likes to talk about sport and life, and that's what we're doing.
Are we having fun yet?
I don't know. I'm having fun. Are you?
Absolutely.
Frank?
Absolutely.
We should poll everybody. By the way, you can find us online, www.fifthstreetsports.com. The website is hasn't been launched officially yet. We do have a coming...
FifthStreetSports.com is with a 5 or
Five,
with a...
5TH, right.
Got it.
The website hasn't been officially launched yet. We're working on it. In the meantime, there are some important links there, links where you can get the show on the various streaming outlets, of course, links to Sports Byline. And if you'd like to place a wager or two, there's some links there that you can go to click through and do just that. Hopefully, we're motivating you to go have a little bit more fun with sport than you normally would. Right, guys? I mean, that's what it's about. So go there. Of course, we are on Twitter. It's at Fifth Street Sports, 5TH Street Sports. And we are on the web, as I said, www.fifthstreetsports.com. And Nolan, your hat is awesome.
Thank you very much. Yo, Adrian! I've been waiting for you to like,
Yeah.
you know, and you're supposed to say, Nolan, why are you wearing a Philadelphia Flyers shirt? You know why? Because it was on sale.
All right, well, we got to go. Top of the hour news break coming up. We'll be right back in just a few minutes here on Fifth Street Sports. Hope you'll stay with us. Frank, just say something to the mic, please.
Hello. Something to the mic.
You're suggesting it's an overreaction.
Maybe, but he. Let's say, for instance,
Give me 2 seconds of live audio. Thank you.
1, 2, test. Hello. We need to test your mic, Nick.
Okay, no. Just okay.
You're assuming he's coming back in the first place normal. Now he's injured.
But-
I really like the way that you guys are creating personality.
All right, welcome everyone to Fifth Street Sports here on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network, and big hello to our men and women in uniform around the world listening on the the American Forces Network. I'm Nick Eber, along with Frank Perez, Nolan Dalla. It's great to be with you. We'll be with you every Saturday from 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, week in, week out, right here on these very same networks. Great to be with you. This is hour number 2, and it's just going to get better.
Wow, let's hope so.
Well, certainly the Jameson bottle is getting emptier, so that does mean that it's going to get better, right, Nolan?
Wait till hour 7.
Yeah.
but thank God he's not gambling, because Nick, you know what? You know, when I ran casinos, what we used to call that stuff, you know, when people were playing blackjack or craps, we used to call it chip remover. It was chip remover. That's what it was.
Let me tell you something. I don't need the booze when it comes to chip removing, okay?
No, because we would have somebody with a lot of chips. We put 3 or 4 drinks, and it just removed their. That was chip remover.
Well, we are waiting. We are going to be coming back. Lots to talk about. Let's talk about Major League Baseball. Opening day, March 29th. Frank, I know you're very excited about that. Big opening day in baseball coming.
Wow.
Lots of value there. Win totals is one of the big bets, of course, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We'll be joined by Fifth Street resident Brian Allen, who will be joining us.
Brian is
and
the
finally,
best.
Finally, we have taken care of the technical issues we had earlier, so hopefully we'll be able to talk to Brian without it sounding like he's going to space to drive Elon Musk Tesla back to us here on Earth. But I wonder what the odds on that would be, by the way.
What,
Sending Brian Allen into space to get the Tesla.
You know, I bet he'd do it. I bet he would do it. He'd be the first guy to go in outer whatever to Mars or whatever, right?
And repossess. What if the guy didn't make the payments on the Tesla? You had to repo it. I mean, talk about a real repo yard. Say, no, but just think if you were a repo yard and you said, we get every car. We even got the one in outer space.
Yeah, he's going to own the whole universe, and he's doing the rockets and the car.
I would hire him if I had a car agency. Speaking of car agencies, have you told him about Affordable Autos?
No, Affordable Autos in Pahrump.
Yeah, we've got it, Jerry. It's see, I've been here 54 years, so I've seen the best pizza, the worst pizza, the best cars, almost everything. I've seen Las Vegas when there was nothing here.
Well, hold that thought, Frank, because we have to go to another break.
Okay,
It's a short one. We'll be right back. Pick up the show for Street Sports Byline. We'll be right back.
Do the two people
We're back.
And we are back.
We're back.
We're back. I'm badder than ever.
You're back in black.
I'm back in black. You're back in gray. And why are you
Whatever.
wearing that filler?
Whatever.
What? My goodness.
Sale.
Look at this.
Sale brack.
Shorts, T-shirt.
I live in Las Vegas. Can you tell, sir?
I mean, the hat probably costs more than the whole ensemble. And your shoes, are they glued? Is that glue on your shoe? I'm pretty sure.
Let's go to our guest, Nick.
No, sir. Oh, by the way, welcome back to the show, Fifth Street Sports. We are streaming live on Twitch, by the way, which is a fabulous place. I love Twitch. It's full of gamers, and we're going to be doing now. Obviously, three. Look, you can look at us and know we're not avid video game players. And someone's just walking from the camera. That's good. We're not avid video game players, but but we will bring people that are, and we're going to talk about esports and esports betting. Because,
what a big deal that is!
Because this is absolutely a huge thing, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And there is a really vibrant betting market on esports, and there's some
South
places,
Koreans are taking over the world.
Yeah, but there's some places you can go and get some great bets, right?
Oh, I can't believe how big it's growing. Over at Pinnacle, a lot of great sports books have big action on this.
Big action on
Big
e-gaming.
yeah, it's good.
And so we're gonna focus in on that. We're gonna bring some people on that do a lot of e-gaming betting to help you out, because I know, because we're on Twitch, lots of people here love video games, play it, watch it. I mean, 2 million people watch some bloke, Dr. Disrespect, is that it? Dr. Disrespect playing the video games, and he gets like 200 million views. So lots of people. It's a great market, and there's a big e-gaming stadium just opened here in Las Vegas
This week?
Luxor, a new one, and I think it's like the third or fourth one here, guys, isn't it? I mean, we have a lot
Like a stadium, like huge screens and thousands of people cheering and watching. And by the way, when they're watching these video games, it's frankly, it's very, very exciting. I mean, I don't play the games much and do that, whatever. Have you done that stuff?
Sure, when I was a few years younger. Now they just make me dizzy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you're betting on it, though, how exciting that would be?
Well, I think that would really be a lot of fun if you're betting on it. So, anyway, we're going to get into that. But in the meantime, for folks watching on Twitch, we did get a question here from Husker73.
Husker
wanted to know what the potential line for a Duke versus Michigan final was. What do you guys think?
Gosh, why don't we bring Brian Allen in on that? He's an expert at it.
He is the expert.
Oh, if we do 2.5, Chris is telling us.
All right, let's see. I'll tell you what. We'll make some phantom lines up, and let's see if Brian confirms them. I don't know if he can hear. I don't know if he can hear us.
Well, you
we
said
don't have
two.
Brian yet, so we're working together.
That's what I'm saying. So we'll. I say Duke had a reputation, probably is worth a point. I say Duke -2.
Chris is off camera. He's waving. He's yelling 2.5.
Is he really saying 2.5?
You know what? Now that we know it's 2.5, let's see when Brian comes in. Let's just see. I mean, he's so plugged in on this stuff.
For sure.
Believe me.
That's what Brian says, apparently.
Oh, Brian's the one that said
He's
okay,
already
well,
confirmed.
I
he
think
already knows.
Chris must be channeling his inner Brian. No,
me
maybe
tell
he
you.
has a different idea of his own. He's looking.
Oh, by the way, I know that's the ideal line that Brian is, who's off camera, who'll be joining us shortly.
Right.
That's what he says the line should be. I wonder, does that theoretically mean that he would bet one side or the other of that?
No, not if that's what the line should be. He's not going to take either side because there's no equity in either side. But when it comes to this kind of stuff with stadiums, over/unders, weather, there's no better than Brian. Believe me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to be such a great part of this show when we get going for the information that the people are going to get, especially in MAC football games, on his weather games, and all these other kind of things. Off the charts, guys. I mean, one of the things I wanted to come on this show was because I've been living here 54 years, and I've gambled on everything there is in this town, from high to low. I've seen it all. To be able to sit on a show like this and inform people, have talk that they can bet on, even though that's our slogan: talk they can bet on, have a good time. Got a great soccer guy here. We're going to have an expert.
Who's the great soccer guy?
Nick
We got somebody else
Gerber
coming?
I
here.
thought I was the Bitcoiner.
No, Nick Gerber here. So,
That's another topic for you.
I mean, it's going to be a good time. We're going to give people a lot of ways to make money and a lot of reasons to
We're all going to get rich.
tune into
Was
the
that quick
show.
or slowly? Because I've been waiting a long time.
One
Is that
thing's for
Bitcoin
sure.
or sports?
You may not get rich, but we're going to teach you how to play better.
I love it.
That's for sure.
that's
I
for
love
absolute-
it.
You know what I
I
mean?
need all the help
You know.
I can get.
I mean, we're going to teach you how to play better. We're going to take the sucker right out of you. Right. We are.
Well, the thing is, if you take the sucker right out of everybody, then where's the game for us?
Well, they're not all
I mean,
gonna-
that's the point.
We want an audience. We want it to be too big. It'll kill your action, Frankie.
Exactly.
No, but I'm saying is, I want to share it with people. Believe me, I really do. At least on how to play the game better. And if we don't know the game you're particularly interested in, we'll find a way to play.
I always knew you were a great humanitarian. Really.
No, but I mean, hey,
You're bringing it to the world, Frank, and that's great.
Listen, if you're going to play better. It's hard-earned money, and it's a lot funner to win.
And if you're going to play, go to fifthstreetsports.com.
FifthStreetSports.com.
With a 5.
With a 5.
And you will see some links there where you can click and go play.
And get rich.
Well, maybe. But have fun. You're going to have a great time doing it. And what you'll find is that it's a lot easier to do than you think.
And on our banners, there's terrific sports books on there with great bonuses, great odds. I mean, one of our sports books that's on our banners there, an overnight baseball, you're laying $1.02. Price is everything in baseball.
You're talking about baseball. Yeah. So I've just been told, the good news, guys, is I've just been told that Brian, through the miracles of modern technology, has joined us again. So should we give this another shot and bring Brian in?
There he is.
Do we have him? Hey,
there he is.
Hello, Brian.
Hey, is that any better?
And we don't have Brian in our ear, but we can get Brian in our ear at some point. Well, at some point, this will get all worked out. We have to set the
I was almost a believer.
Almost. Yeah,
almost.
Well, I don't think that he's actually on his way to that Tesla yet. It certainly looks a bit better. Brian, I think we have you now.
Is that better?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. Yes, I'm a believer.
Oh.
Yes.
Brian,
all right.
Brian,
give us a winner, Brian. You've been listening to these fools for the last hour and 20 minutes. Please give us a winner now.
Brian, I told these guys how you are so sharp in any market. They actually asked me what would be the line of Brian being able to repo the Tesla that's up there. That's up there in space.
That's funny. I'm glad to be with you guys. I feel like Bernard Shaw during the first Gulf War on CNN. Finally,
it's funny we all laugh because we're old enough to remember.
It's all shock and awe. So Brian, Husker 73 wanted to know what the potential line for Duke versus Michigan would be for a final. And we understand through the relay system that you said 2.5. But
hand signals.
Is that right?
Yeah, more or less 2.5. The hard thing when you're making lines in two games in advance, you can't just go by the metrics of where each team is rated now. You have to also anticipate who's going to get credit for beating. It's kind of like in diving, who's attempting the triple Lundy and who's just doing a cannonball. So obviously, on the Duke side versus the Michigan side, you've got a different degree of competition. I'm not sure you're going to get the same credit for beating Loyola as you would for beating Villanova, for example.
Right.
So let's segue, shall we, to baseball. And, of course, March 29th is opening day.
This week.
Is it really this week? What are we now?
It's coming up in a few days.
5 days. Yeah,
wow.
Well, I suppose that would qualify to this week. As the Jameson bottle gets lower and lower in remaining volume.
You're taking up Brian's time.
I know. Brian, Frank, you guys are the baseball experts. How does this look to you?
Oh, Brian, I wanted to run this by you today. They just informed me that with this Bumgardner going out, the Giants over and under total went from 85 to 80.5.
Wow.
Do you think that's a bit of an overreaction?
Yeah, generally speaking, I do think that people overreact on marquee players. And I think he's a fairly overrated player, even though I enjoy him. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I do think that the public overreacts. But, even at 85, wasn't that kind of a stunningly low number?
It was.
I guess it's really just a reflection on how tough that division is.
It is, but just think about it. Okay, so let's say he's out for 50 games that the Giants play. He would have had 10 starts. Now, if we gave him, I'm going to be generous here, gave him 7-3. That's pretty good. It's really going to be closer to 6.5 or 6-4. All right, so 7-3. That's 4 wins. If his replacement goes 5-5, because he's going to have to, his replacement is going to pitch against an easier rotation number. Because Gardner's number 1, his replacement is going to go against 4 or 5. His replacement goes 5-5. That's only 2 wins, and that's giving Gardner 7-5. I'm 7-3.
All right, guys, we do have to go to
I
break,
totally agree.
actually. So
That's a cliffhanger.
You know?
I know it is. So
You're
let's
you're
hold
hanging
let's
us
hold
up by
that
a cliff.
cliffhanger. Let's go to break, and we'll be right back in 3 minutes, so don't go anywhere. All right, and we're back on Fifth Street Sports. Nick Eber, Frank Perez, Nolan Dalla, and we also have from the ether of space joining us,
In
Brian
the
Allen.
Central time zone.
A different time zone. Welcome back, Brian.
Hey guys, good to be here.
All right. Now, I know we were deep in a story before we went to break, so should we pick that up?
No, Brian, I was asking you, so what have you seen on the season win totals in MLB this year? What that strikes you a little off?
Well, I would just say to get back to the point you were making before the break about the Giants. I agree. The replacement for Baumgartner is not that big a drop off. 5 games is absurd. But the other thing that you have to anticipate when you're making that bet is the quit factor among the front office. And once a team feels that it's no longer viable to compete for a playoff spot, that there's a temptation. Soccer is probably the greatest example, Nick, as you could probably agree, that once you feel like you're out of the running to qualify for the postseason, there's a temptation to cut salary and maybe look forward to another season. So that could be in play for the Giants, especially considering
True, yeah.
how strong Colorado, Arizona are in their division.
Hey, speaking of baseball totals, we got a question here from Shaw's2499 on Twitch, who wants to know if you think that the mound visits limit in baseball could affect baseball totals now.
To try to speed up the games.
Yeah.
That's the idea of that.
Wow.
It's an interesting question. I've seen other rule changes in the past. Usually when they have a new rule change, they test it in the minor leagues. And there is data where you can see what the what the before and after impact is. But I haven't actually seen this one. Good question though.
Well,
I already had great respect for him. I like somebody that says I don't know. That's actually a good answer sometimes.
No, but
You know,
that's a very
hey,
good
who knows?
answer.
I only
sometimes.
say that when I'm being deposed.
Hey, can I ask something? I'd like to ask Frank. I just have to ask this about. Talk about fading. Like, let's just take the Astros, the world champions, and the Dodgers. Is there value in fading the teams that have done so well in the last 160 whatever games
What do you think, Brian?
the following season?
I absolutely think so. Yeah, and in fact, this sounds like a weird, rule to use with season win totals, but I'm convinced, having done this for 20 years plus, that simply going under, shopping for the best number and going under, will give you a little bit of value in season win totals. Trying to oppose the public, generally speaking, likes to bet over on season win totals, which creates a little bit of value for unders. Same thing is true with props. If you ever pay attention to, the list of props that prop guys bet during the Super Bowl or even a typical Monday Night Football game, you'll probably notice about 80 to 90% of their bets are over and nose. Will Billy Joe catch more than 4.5 receptions, have more than 83.5 yards rushing? Generally speaking, if you bet no, he won't, or it's going under, that combined with a little bit of line shopping and having reduced outs, it's not going to make you rich overnight, but it's going to give you a little bit of an edge.
I've heard in the NFL, like if you were to take all the season win totals in the NFL, it used to be 12, 15 games over because everybody likes to bet the over on their favorite team, right? It's not as high as it used to be. Does the same thing apply in Major League Baseball, where if you were to take the entire board, add up all the totals, you see where I'm going with this. If you were to just categorically say the under, is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, the problem for the average bettor is, if you're betting with money posted up, you've essentially tied up your entire bankroll for something that might be a small edge, but is that edge, worth having your entire bankroll tied up for 8 months, 7 months,
Right.
whatever the length of the season
Because
is?
there's 32 teams or 30 teams, and then let's say you bet them all one way, and there's some minus price. If you got a $50,000 bankroll, it's going to be totally tied up. If you're betting 1,000, on the thing.
Yeah. But it does highlight.
I know
the
everyone's
importance
excited
of-
about. So I was
Sorry,
going to say,
go
I know
ahead.
everyone's excited about baseball because the season starts March 29th. For me, I'm looking for the big bet. For example, I'm more interested in the July 4th matchup, the over/under on the hot dogs at the competitive eating.
The food
72
contest,
and a half under.
72 hot dogs?
Is
Is
minus
Joey
120.
still doing it? Joey
Chestnut.
My
So Joey
goodness.
Chestnut's right, a minus 570 favorite right now. I mean, that's by far field. Brian, how do you feel about that?
I don't have any insight on hot dogs this year, but I will.
He says, I'll go over. I could definitely do 72.
I will come
Does
on
that
as
depend
soon
on
as I
the
get
weather
to-
at all? Is there any weather factor there or gas, bloating? I mean, does that come into play at any point here?
What about Game of Thrones?
I'll
You
come up with
didn't-
a theory for that.
Well, we're going to get to Game of Thrones betting in the last segment here because I know everybody's really excited about that. We're going to find out.
Just a second. They really bet this. They really bet on Game of Thrones. Is that really true?
Absolutely.
It is true.
Brian, now have you watched Game of Thrones?
You know what's funny? I have still never
We're
seen
jumping
Game
ahead,
of
Nick.
Thrones, but I had a bet on it. On I guess who would be the king.
Why am I not surprised?
And it's funny because the guy that brought the bet to me, a good friend of mine, we made the bet together, and I told him, just tell me whether I won or lost. I still want to be able to watch the show in the future. So I know I lost the bet. Whatever I had was a loser, but that's funny.
All right. Well, we'll get to that in the next segment. But let's get back to
Quit baiting
baseball.
us. You're baiting us.
Cy Young winners. That's always
Oh,
that's,
my goodness.
That's always a
it's
big,
not going to be Baumgartner.
I mean, that's always a lot of betting goes on Cy Young winners. Any thoughts before the season starts?
What do you like, Brian? Cy Young?
I think that's a bet where there's so much juice in that bet. When you're dealing with a multi-player outcome, you've got to really have something that you think is, inside information or really good to make a bet on that.
Is there such a thing as a live dog, though? Somebody who's like 14-1 or some ridiculous thing.
Yeah, no, even more than that. You got to look for. Brian's right. You got to look for a lot more than that. You got to look for some pitcher that you really know.
Nobody's
going
to bet Strasburg. The value is going to be in somebody who you don't expect. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
If I could bet the no, I'd bet the no on all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Strasburg,
Yeah,
all
good
of them.
point.
I'd bet the no on every one of them.
All right. Sorry, I did just find the Game of Thrones odds, so I can't wait to talk about these in the next segment.
Oh,
because
I'll
I
bet
know
you can't.
If you watch it, you're gonna be excited. I know, Frank, you have some theories. Brian, you said you made a bet on it, but you don't know anything about it, which is probably better than most people that make bets out there. The uneducated bet, right?
I'm an expert, but I've never watched it.
Well, it's never stopped you before, no.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Brian. We did have a couple of the quick questions here, and as we wrap up this segment, I thought I'd like to. We should get your take on these. Charles wants to hear about your rim theory.
Yes,
Variance.
thank you.
Rim variance.
Sounds like
Rim
something
theory.
Stormy Daniels might have done with Donald Trump, but we'll hear about that
Ooh,
another
ouch.
time.
Ooh.
It does sound
It's a
filthy.
PG-rated show, sir.
Well,
The rim theory. What is it, sir?
it's going to be hard to meet people's expectations on this. I can tell already. But, basically we're living in an era of data right now, right? Everything in sports is measured, and anybody that wants access to this kind of data has it. Whether it's, the speed of a hockey puck coming off a hockey stick, or the ball coming off a bat in baseball, or the velocity of a field goal, everything is measured. But one thing that is probably one of the most predictive variables in determining whether a sport, a bet will win or lose, is the stiffness of rims, right? Anybody that's been watching, by the way, I managed to get stiffness and rim theory into the same argument.
Nice.
Pay the over.
Anyway. Anyways, if you've been watching basketball or played basketball or just been around the sport, that not all rims are the same. Sometimes you see a shot that hits rim that's, the rims are nice and loose and the ball finds a way to, make itself into the basket. And other times rims are incredibly stiff and, unless you swish, you've got no chance of scoring. And so,
Brian,
about
let me just hold you right there because we have to go to break.
Is this another cliffhanger?
Yeah, and as we get ready to go to break, I want everybody to think long and hard about the Brian's stiff rim theory as we get ready to go.
You're
to break.
joking, but there's better make some money here.
I know, absolutely. So, hey, listen, you only get that here on Fifth Street Sports. So
Yeah, for sure.
we are. Brian is truly an absolute wealth of knowledge and theories. We're going to pick it up on the other side of the break. We're going to get Brian's theory.
Where's Stormy?
Where is Stormy? I don't know. Maybe she'll come on next week. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the show, Fifth Street Sports on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Big hello to our men and women in uniform around the world listening to us on American Forces. We hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be with you every Saturday from 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, bring you more of this. And by the way, if you like soccer, I do a version of this show for soccer at 1 p.m. Pacific Time on Friday.
He's got to plug his soccer stuff.
Of course, why not? Fifth Street Soccer. You know, we got to do it. Someone's got to do it. But why not me? Well, let's go back to our special high-tech window and bring in our good friend and Fifth Street resident, Brian Allen. We were just getting into the meat of his stiff rim theory. So let's go back to Brian.
The meat of his stiff rim theory.
I'm trying to keep this, family friendly, but it's difficult. Brian, you're still with us, I take it.
It's going to be hard to follow. All right. So basically, the idea behind this is that all rims are not the same. Some are softer than others. And the variance at one point in time was huge in the 90s. And beginning around 2000, the NCAA mandated that all rims would have to be measured for every team in college basketball before the season began. And every few months during the season, and that every time there's a conference tournament or NCAA tournament or any kind of tournament, that a measurement would be performed on the rims. So a company called Porter Athletics developed a tool called the Fair Game tool. It measures rims for the amount of energy that's dissipated or that's absorbed when a ball hits the rim. They established a range of 35 to 50%. That was the acceptable score. And the idea is that, anything higher than a 50 would be considered too loose. Anything below 35 would be too tight. Teams are aware of this, and they typically adjust their rims to fit their playing style. So a team that is, three-point shooting team, perimeter-oriented team, is going to want to have a higher rim score than a team that scores on slam dunks and layups. So, the range is, like I said, is from 30 to 35. FIBA, the International Basketball Authority, uses a similar score range. The NBA, by contrast, their acceptable range is 20 to 35. So they're shooting on harder rims. And a lot of people don't realize that when the games that are taking place today, like for example, the Loyola game that's taking place right now is being played in Phillips Arena in Atlanta. It's an NBA arena, but they're not using NBA rims. They're using rims that were specially calibrated for this tournament. The frustrating thing is we don't have access to these scores. So it's an important variable, but we don't really know what that number is. All we can do is maybe observe, watch, and get a feel for how loose or tight the rims are. But it is if this was Mythbusters, the evidence is clear that this is a real phenomenon.
Wow, fascinating stuff, Brian. And what is it that did you see like a news article on this that made you examine this further? I mean, what is it? You look at sports from an entirely different perspective, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just, years of being a sicko gambler and having ridiculous phone calls with other gamblers, observing little idiosyncrasies, wondering if there's anything to it. I remember there was one year with the ACC tournament where I think like 15 out of 16 halves were won by a team going from either left to right or right to left. We had determined that the rims were softer going one direction than the other. But I mean, I guess that's what it's all about, right? In today's
I've never heard that. That's astonishing.
Yeah.
It's astonishing
Well,
to hear
this is Fifth Street Sports. You're only going to hear it here.
That's just you're giving away the gold to the store.
Well, let's give away the gold a little bit more, shall we? Let's give away the fire. Let's give away the ice, and let's talk about if there's any, stiff and rim. And I'm thinking Daenerys Targaryen, 2.84 to sit on the Iron Throne.
Daenerys
so now
Targaryen.
we're going to Game of Thrones.
Is that the
guys.
midget?
No, that's
No.
Khaleesi. That's
By the way-
Khaleesi. That's a beautiful blonde.
Allow me to say that's very politically inappropriate. They're called what are
The
they called?
short
Little
people.
people.
Short
now.
people got
yeah,
no
short people.
ba, 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 ba.
Something like that. But anyway, no, that is Tyrion Lannister. He's at 8.82. Brian, if you got money, what are you putting on here? Who's your fave? Is it Daenerys Targaryen, Jon Snow? Where's the value in the Game of Thrones betting today? There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, not the midget. I don't know.
Little
No,
person.
no.
Little person. Come on now.
I
please.
totally disagree. I have a friend of mine from Wager Talk who is an expert, okay, on this great Game of Thrones, and he gave me a scenario. And believe me, this guy really loves this. He thinks Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, a.k.a. Khaleesi, will be killed in the second to the last episode, and Tyrion Lannister will win and be on the Iron Throne. How do you like? You only heard it here.
Listen, I got to ask something.
You only heard it here on Fifth Street Sports.
Why didn't somebody just go to the writer? Isn't the writer? By the way, I'm a writer, so I'm head swelling here. Doesn't the writer control the whole script, the whole whatever?
And make
If nobody knows what's in the
make it
writer's
worth his
head,
while?
they win. Yes. So what's to stop somebody from knowing who the writer scripts and whatever?
Oh, I think those things are under very tight security.
Really?
Yeah, because it could blow the whole show.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, for my favorite bet here is the resurrected Ned Stark.
I love that too.
Yeah, it's he's 96.65 on the resurrected.
How many
Ned
people
Stark.
come back
That's
to life
that's
in
good
that show,
numbers right
Nick?
there. I like that. You can see it right there.
I tell you what,
Resurrected Ned Stark.
I
I got a great story along
Go
these lines. This is going back about 15 years, but I know you guys know that there's odds on the Academy Awards, right? You can bet the Oscars. Generally, the limits aren't that big, but when I was first in this business, I'd say around 2002 or 3. I don't know how many people will remember this. There was I know you'll remember this, Frank. There was a sports book called Direct Bet. Do you remember that? They were a spinoff of Pinnacle. A couple of employees from Pinnacle started their own book, and a couple Australian guys. And these guys were convinced they knew they had an inside connection with the accounting firm, that counted the votes. And they were betting the Oscars every year, like aggressively. And I guess I had heard of it, and I decided to, I'd help out. I'd go use my outs to go bet them the Oscars. And I got down a lot of money that year, and the information was all wrong. It was train wreck.
Oh,
That was the accounting firm of Price Waterhouse Coopers, wasn't it? Wasn't that it? Remember
Yes,
that? They
indeed.
always had the stuffed shirt accountant that came up. It wasn't your tax return or the bill you had to pay him. It was the winners, and the winner is. Oh, you don't say that. And the Oscar goes.
Never
to-
mind.
Yes, exactly. Never
Horrible.
mind. All right, so we've helped everybody out with a little Game of Thrones betting. And I think next week we're going to talk baseball, obviously, because the season will be underway.
And then politics later.
We have to do politics.
Can you
really.
imagine? I'm sorry, just to like steal this for a second. What are the odds? Forget about you. You guys want to make money out there, right? Everybody around the world listening. It's everybody has their own political feelings, but if you could make money off politics, will Trump be impeached? Will this happen? Will this happen? I always wonder, like, we're conflicted emotionally with, we want to make money, but like, gee, you want the country to do well, yes? Right. It's a weird situation, isn't it? Gambling.
Yeah, but if you make money, isn't the country doing well as well, and well for you? Because isn't it ask not what you can...
Oh,
Wait a
my
minute.
goodness. He's
How
quoting
much
John
money you
F.
can make for
Kennedy.
yourself. I think that was it. His quote, wasn't it? Something like that.
no, but you know what I've always thought about the people that try to blame everything on the presidency and Trump and the country. I believe
I knew
that
I shouldn't have brought that up.
No, but I believe that to about 80 to 85% of the country, it wouldn't matter if Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck was in office. Because if you're going to drink and not show up at work and do all kinds of stupid things like that, absolutely don't matter. What does it matter who's in office to you? You're not going to be successful.
Filing away for the future. Hang on.
Pluto.
Hang on. We're going to discuss that. That's the moral and ethics of gambling. It's a great topic.
Speaking of this, and to change the subject, let's talk about morals and ethics for a minute. Let's talk about Red Rock, big casino.
Oh
here.
yeah, wow.
There was a
topic.
situation with a bad beat jackpot. If you don't play poker and
Bad beat.
a bad beat means if you have basically an unwinnable hand and you an unbeatable hand and you're beaten by that unbeatable
monster hand beaten by the monster hand.
a straight flush beaten by a royal
Which
flush
happened.
or quads beaten, which happens. And the casinos have a jackpot that they pay out on.
The Coast and the Stations are the biggest two that do this.
You're right.
In Las Vegas.
Station. So there was a jackpot, a bad beat jackpot that was won at Red Rock by a guy named Avi Shomi, who had a straight flush that was beaten by another guy whose name I don't remember offhand right now. There was about Avi would have got 30,000, the other guy would have got 90,000, and Red Rock had a deal that everybody that was playing one of their poker rooms when this bad beat happened would pick up a percentage of the pot, and the pot was huge. So once this happened, of course, the powers that be at the casino decide they like to look at any way they can to get away from actually paying this. It's not like they're not insured for this, by the way. So they looked at the tape and decided that Avi showed his hand early before the final round of betting was complete. He was already beaten, by the way, and this is an 85-year-old man.
Oh,
And they
I didn't know that.
And they decided to invalidate the bad beat jackpot.
Oh.
There's been a lot of pushback on this, and apparently they're no longer going to have bad beat jackpots. And many of the casinos around town are now following suit, deciding that this is a great way for them to get out of it. Plus, we all know that poker's not a big money maker for the casinos in terms of revenue per square footage. I mean, there was a time before the poker boom where you guys all remember there weren't very many poker rooms here anymore in Las Vegas. So you have to wonder where that's going. But I don't like that. That's unethical to me.
What is unethical? What specifically?
That they didn't pay out the jackpot.
That they didn't pay out the jackpot. That they looked for the slightest
I believe the gaming
technicality.
board has ruled in the player's favor, and they will pay it out. However,
They are going to pay it out.
No. The after effect of this is Stations Casino says, fine,
But
we'll pay it out because the gaming board said that.
It doesn't even come out of Red Rock's pocket.
We're null and voiding all future.
So let me read
That's
this. I'll read this. I'm sorry for reading on the air. It said the jackpot stood at about $120,000 back in July. 83-year-old Avi Shamir lost with a straight flush to a higher one from a poker player by the name of Len Schreiter. Shamir was in line to collect $60K for the losing. Schreiter was going to pocket $30K. However, Red Rock examined the video footage of the hand and decided to invalidate the jackpot because Schreiter turned over his two cards prior to the end of the hand. He exposed his card after the river card was dealt, but before the final round of betting had been completed. Poker players say
Come
obviously
on.
that didn't impact the
That's
action
garbage.
at all. So very unethical. Don't like it, and unfortunately, we're going to have to get close to wrapping the show with that thought. But I mean, how unfair is that?
And Nick, but did you know it doesn't even come out of Red Rock's pocket. They take a certain percentage of
It's
the
the players'
rate
money.
designed only for that. So it's not even their money. But that's garbage. I mean, he didn't manipulate the hand or show it before, on the turn or on the flop. It was after everything was done. So that's really ridiculous. But want to know what? If I was a casino right now, I would post up there, we have bad beat jackpots. Come here.
Good point.
We have bad beat jackpots.
All right. Well, we want you to come here because we're talking everything you want to know about betting. This is Talk You Can Bet On. This is Fifth Street Sports, and we do have to take a break. We'll be right back after this. All right. Well, we're back. Going to wrap it up here on Fifth Street Sports. But before we do, guys, by the way, Nick Eber, Frank Perez, Nolan Dalla. Before we do, let's bring Brian Allen back because if we can. Do we have Brian still? We do. Brian, very quickly, you got about 30 seconds. Shaw's2499 on Twitch wants to know if we can get your picks for Villanova, Texas Tech, or Duke versus Kansas.
Okay, so yeah, I got those. All right, Duke versus Texas Tech, was that one of them?
It was Villanova, Texas Tech, or Duke versus Kansas.
Oh, okay. You know what? I don't have either one of those at the moment. No, but I do like Texas Tech to go forward. Actually, wait, Villanova, you want to pick on Villanova, Texas Tech? Yeah, I like Texas Tech +7.
Yeah.
If I can get it, I think 7 will be available if you're patient. Again, it's good to have multiple sports books. I think this game will touch 7, and when it does, I like Texas Tech a lot. And what was the other one? Duke versus Kansas?
Yeah, Duke, Kansas.
I'm not a fan of Kansas, but I think the line's a little high. I would take Kansas, at the peak number. Yeah, I think there's value on the Kansas side. I think that the public is on the Duke side, and the line's a little higher than it should be.
Great. Brian Allen, thank you so much. We'll chat with you next week. There you go. From Game of Thrones to stiff rims to baseball
To rims.
to Japanese women curling. It's the only place you get it all right here for Street Sports. I mean, where else? Oh, Major League Eating. Don't forget that. We touched on
Can't
Joey
wait.
Chestnut.
In July,
the great
yes.
Joey Chestnut. So we'll be back next week. We hope you will join us next week. Same place, Sports Byline USA Radio Network, Twitch, YouTube. You can go to our website, fifthstreetsports.com. It's still in progress, but all the links that you need are there. If you'd like to make a little wager on some of the bets, on some of the games that we've spoken about, you can do that. There's a way that you can do that through our website. Go to Fifth Street Sports. We really enjoy doing this, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Oh, what's this, Nolan? Is this getting ready?
I can't wait till next week.
All right. Well, once again, Fifth Street Sports, and we are Twitter at Fifth Street Sports, and that's it.
He already yelled clear.
Oh, he did? I didn't hear him. Okay.
Good.
Well, that's it, guys.
Except he exited.